Captain Lisa Johnson stood on the bridge of the EDF cruiser Defiant watching the stars through the main viewport. The year was 2087, and humanity had spread throughout the solar system, with colonies on Mars and space stations orbiting several planets. Today, her ship patrolled the outer reaches near Neptune, a routine mission that had been quiet for weeks. "Captain, I'm picking up strange energy readings," said Officer Ben Miller, his eyes fixed on his monitor. "Nothing like I've seen before." Lisa walked over to his station. "Show me." The screen displayed a growing distortion in space about 50,000 miles ahead of them. At first, it looked like a small ripple, but it quickly expanded into what appeared to be a swirling vortex of blue and purple energy. "Is that a wormhole?" she asked, though no human had ever seen one outside of theoretical simulations. "If it is, it's not natural," replied Science Officer Olivia Green, who had joined them at the monitor. "The energy pattern is too regular, too controlled." Before Lisa could order any action, the vortex stabilized, and dark shapes began to emerge. First one, then three, then dozens of massive vessels, each at least 5 times the size of the Defiant. They were angular, with sharp edges that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. "Battle stations," Lisa ordered calmly. "But hold fire. Let's try to talk first." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Shields came up, and weapons systems were put on standby. "Open a communication channel, all frequencies, standard greeting package," Lisa said. Communications Specialist Ryan Cooper nodded. "Channel open. Broadcasting now." The bridge fell silent as they waited. The alien vessels had formed a half-circle formation, facing the Defiant. "No response, Captain," Ryan said after a full minute had passed. Lisa was about to order a second attempt when Officer Miller shouted, "Energy spike." There. The bridge shook violently as the first blast hit. Lisa grabbed her chair to stay upright. "Return fire." Evasive maneuvers. The Defiant banked hard to port, its engines straining as it tried to escape the suddenly hostile alien fleet. More blasts followed, each one more accurate than the last. "Shields at 40%, called the tactical officer. Lisa knew they were outmatched. "Send a distress signal to Earth Command. Include all scan data on the alien vessels." Another hit rocked the ship, sending sparks flying from an overhead panel. "Shields failing. We've lost engines." Lisa watched the main view screen as one of the alien ships moved closer. It was massive up close, covered in what looked like armored plates and bristling with weapons. "They're launching boarding craft," Miller reported, his voice tight with tension. Lisa made a quick decision. Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Security teams to all entry points. "Lieutenant Martinez," she said, turning to her second-in-command. "Take Pod 7 with the sensor data. Make sure Earth gets it." Sam Martinez hesitated. "Captain, I should stay." "That's an order, Lieutenant. Someone needs to warn Earth about what we're facing." As the crew scrambled to their evacuation stations, Lisa opened the ship-wide comm. "This is Captain Johnson. Prepare to repel boarders. Remember your training. Earth is counting on us." The first explosion signaled that the aliens had breached the outer hull. Lisa drew her sidearm and positioned herself near the bridge door with the remaining crew. When the aliens finally burst onto the bridge, Lisa was shocked by their appearance. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with gray-green scaled skin and 4 arms. Their faces were almost insect-like, with compound eyes that glowed yellow in the dimmed emergency lighting. Their leader stepped forward, towering over Lisa. When it spoke, a device on its chest translated its clicking speech into rough English. "I am Sub-Commander Vexcar of the Cruvor Dominion. Your species is now property of Warlord Care. Resistance is pointless." Lisa kept her weapon raised. "Humans don't become property." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "They'd all say that. You will learn." As the aliens surrounded the bridge crew, Lisa could only hope that Martinez had made it to the escape pod. Earth needed to know what was coming. 3 months had passed since the first attack. Earth's blue skies were now filled with the dark shapes of Kruvor warships. The alien blockade surrounded the planet, with more ships positioned throughout the solar system. Mars colonies were under heavy attack, with many areas already fallen to the invaders. Colonel Joe Foster stared at the holographic map in the underground EDF headquarters. Red markers showed Kruvor positions, while the dwindling blue dots represented Earth's remaining forces. "Another transport shot down near the Luna base," said his aide, handing him a report. "That's the third this week." Joe rubbed his tired eyes. At 52, he had never expected to lead Earth's defense against alien invaders. Yet here he was, coordinating what remained of the world's military forces against an enemy with far superior technology. "What about the Jupiter mining stations?" Joe asked. "Still holding, sir. The miners have turned their equipment into weapons. They're using the moons for cover." Joe nodded. All across the solar system, humans were showing remarkable creativity in their resistance. It wasn't enough to win, but it was keeping them from losing, for now. The door to the command center opened, and Joe's wife, Dr. Amanda Foster, entered. Her lab coat was wrinkled, her gray-streaked brown hair tied back in a messy ponytail. "Any progress?" Joe asked. Amanda held up a small device. "We've managed to reverse engineer some of their communication technology. It might give us an edge." Their daughter Kate walked over from her communication station. At 26, she had her mother's intelligence and her father's determination. "The resistance on Mars sent new information," Kate said. "The Kruvor are bringing in bigger ships. Planet crackers, they call them." Joe's face darkened. "How long do we have?" 2 weeks, maybe less." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what planet crackers meant. The Kruvor were done playing games. They would destroy Earth's crust, killing billions instantly if humanity didn't surrender. "There's something else," Amanda said. "We found Lieutenant Martinez." Joe looked up sharply. "The officer from the Defiant Asterisk. He's alive." Amanda nodded. "He's been hiding with the resistance on Mars. He's gathered valuable intelligence about the Kruvor. He's trying to find a way back to Earth." "What about Captain Johnson?" Kate asked. Amanda's expression turned grim. "Still captive on the Kruvor flagship. They're interrogating her and the other survivors." Miles above Earth, on the massive Kruvor command ship, Lisa Johnson was pushed into a large chamber. Her uniform was torn, her face bruised. 3 months of questioning had left her thin and weak, but her eyes still burned with defiance. Warlord G's Care sat on a raised platform, his 4 arms resting on the sides of his throne-like chair. Unlike the other Kruvor, his scales had a reddish tint, marking his high rank. "Captain Johnson," he said, his translator making his voice sound almost friendly. "Your people continue to resist. It is pointless. We have conquered dozens of worlds. Earth is nothing special." Lisa stood as straight as she could. "Then why haven't you won yet?" The Warlord's compound eyes narrowed. "A temporary delay. Your species is strange. Your emotional responses are muted. Other species we conquered broke quickly when faced with fear. Humans are used to being afraid," Lisa said. "We don't let it stop us." Zker leaned forward. "Your Mars colonies have created effective resistance strategies. Your lunar defenses have destroyed 17 of my ships. How is this possible with your primitive technology?" Lisa smiled slightly. "We adapt." The Warlord made a sharp clicking sound, and guards grabbed Lisa's arms. "Take her back to her cell. Increase the questioning intensity. I want to know how these humans think." Back on Earth, Joe Foster addressed the gathered military leaders. The room was tense as he outlined their situation. "We can't match their firepower," he said, "but we've noticed they struggle with unpredictable tactics. They expect us to follow military logic similar to theirs." He pointed to the map. "We'll use hit-and-run attacks. Small, fast ships, Target their sensors and communication arrays. We don't need to destroy their vessels, just blind them temporarily. How long can we keep this up? Someone asked. Joe glanced at Amanda, who stood quietly in the corner. Long enough, he said. My wife's team is working on something. We just need to buy them time. 6 months into the war, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Amanda Foster worked in a secret lab filled with captured Krivor technology. She had not slept more than 4 hours a night for weeks. Her team of 20 scientists and engineers worked around the clock, studying alien devices that might give humanity an edge. Today, Amanda stared at something tiny under her microscope, a neural implant removed from a dead Krivor soldier. The delicate device was about the size of a rice grain. Dr. Foster called her assistant. You need to see this brain scan. Amanda moved to a large screen showing colorful images of a Krivor brain. Certain areas glowed bright red. We stimulated the emotional centers, her assistant explained. The response was off the charts. Their brains process emotions thousands of times more intensely than ours. Amanda's eyes widened. That's why they have these implants. They're not enhancers. They're dampeners. The Krivor naturally feel emotions too strongly, especially fear. Like having panic attacks from simply being startled, another scientist added. Amanda picked up the tiny implant with tweezers. Without these, they'd be overwhelmed by their own feelings. She rushed to her computer and began typing rapidly. This explains so much. Their rigid military structure, their seeming lack of empathy. It's all controlled. They're not emotionless. They're terrified of their own emotions. In the command center, Colonel Joe Foster received reports of new Krivor attacks on the Jupiter mining stations. Earth's defensive line was being pushed back daily. Supplies were running low everywhere. His daughter Kate approached with a tablet. Dad, Mom wants to see you. She says it's urgent. Joe found Amanda in her lab, surrounded by her team. She looked more energetic than he had seen her in months. We found something, she said, leading him to a quiet corner. The Krivor use neural dampeners to control their emotional responses. Without them, they're extremely vulnerable to emotional stimuli. Joe frowned. What kind of stimuli? Any strong emotion. Fear, joy, sadness, love. They would feel these emotions with overwhelming intensity. Amanda squeezed his arm. Joe, they've never encountered a species like us before. We process emotions differently. How does this help us? Amanda smiled. What if we could disable their dampeners and then expose them to human emotional experiences? Our art, music, stories, things that move us might completely overwhelm them. Joe stared at her. You want to use emotions as a weapon. Not just any emotions, our humanity itself. Meanwhile, aboard the Krivor flagship, Lisa Johnson was returned to her cell after another brutal questioning session. Her cellmate, a female Krivor with unusually blue-tinted scales, watched her with large compound eyes. Lisa had learned the alien was named Karina, a scientist who opposed the Dominion's wars of conquest. She had been imprisoned for speaking against Warlords' care. You withstood another session, Karina said, her translator making her voice sound metallic. Most species break much sooner. Lisa slumped onto her hard bed. Humans are stubborn. It's more than that. Karina moved closer. Your species processes fear differently. The Warlord is fascinated by this. What do you mean? Karina touched a spot behind her ear where a small bump was visible. We Krivor feel emotions too strongly. Without our dampeners, we would be paralyzed by fear at the smallest threat. All conquered species share similar emotional responses to ours. Until humans, Lisa realized. Yes, you feel fear, yet you function through it. The Warlord doesn't understand this. It frightens him, though he would never admit it. Lisa sat up straighter. Tell me more about these dampeners. Back on Earth, Joe Foster called an emergency meeting with military leaders. He presented Amanda's discovery and her proposed plan, now named Project Pandora. You want to attack the aliens with feelings, General Clark asked skeptically. With our humanity, Joe corrected. Dr. Foster believes we can create a signal that will disable their neural dampeners and simultaneously broadcast emotional triggers. What kind of triggers? Amanda stepped forward. Everything that makes us human. Our love, courage, grief, hope, the full spectrum of human experience concentrated into a signal. The room was silent for a moment. We need to test it, Joe said finally, and we need a way to deliver it to their entire fleet at once. For that, Amanda replied, we need access to their communication network. And for that, Joe added, we need someone who knows their systems. Everyone knew what that meant. They needed to rescue Captain Lisa Johnson. Lieutenant Sam Martinez crawled through the red dust of Mars, keeping his body low behind a ridge of rocks. For 6 months, he had moved between resistance groups, gathering information about the Cruvor forces. Today, he watched a large Cruvor supply ship through his binoculars. It sat on a flat area near what used to be the main human colony. Alien guards patrolled around it, their 4 arms holding weapons that could vaporize a person in seconds. They're loading something big, whispered Roy Williams, a mining engineer who had joined the resistance. Looks like those planet cracker parts we heard about. Sam nodded. They're getting ready to move on Earth. He had received a coded message from Earth Command 2 days ago. They needed information about Cruvor ships, especially their communication systems. And most importantly, they needed to rescue Captain Johnson, who was being held on the Cruvor flagship. We need that ship, Sam said, pointing to the supply vessel. Roy looked at him like he was crazy. There are 20 guards and just 6 of us. We have surprise on our side. And we have this. Sam pulled out a small device. It's a sound weapon the resistance developed. It creates a noise at a frequency that hurts Cruvor hearing. That night, Sam led his small team toward the ship. They wore masks to filter the thin Mars air and carried makeshift weapons. Only Sam had a real gun, a laser pistol he had taken from a dead Cruvor soldier. Remember, Sam whispered, we need the ship intact, and we need at least one of their communication devices. At Sam's signal, Roy activated the sound weapon. A high-pitched noise filled the air. The Cruvor guards dropped their weapons and grabbed their heads, unable to bear the pain. Now, Sam shouted. The team rushed forward. They took down the disabled guards quickly, then ran up the ship's ramp. Inside, they found 3 more Cruvor who fought back despite their pain. Roy was shot in the shoulder, but they managed to secure the ship. Get him to the medical bay, Sam ordered as 2 resistance fighters helped Roy. The rest of you, learn what you can about flying this thing. Sam explored the ship, finding its bridge and looking over the controls. They were strange, designed for beings with 4 arms, but he could figure them out. He had been studying Cruvor technology for months. Roy will live, said a fighter named Alice, returning to the bridge. But he's badly hurt. We need to move fast, Sam replied. Help me with these controls. After an hour of figuring out the alien ship, Sam managed to start its engines. The ship lifted off the red Martian surface, heading toward space. Where are we going? Alice asked. To the Cruvor flagship. We're going to rescue Captain Johnson. Using the stolen ship's identification codes, Sam approached the massive Cruvor flagship that orbited Mars. His heart pounded as he waited for them to be discovered, but the Cruvor controllers allowed them to dock, believing they were just another supply ship. Stay with Roy, Sam told Alice. The rest of you with me. Sam and 3 fighters moved through the huge alien ship, using the sound weapon whenever they encountered Cruvor soldiers. They found a computer terminal, and Sam used the knowledge he had gained to locate the prison section. This way, he whispered, leading them down a long corridor. They reached a large room filled with cells. Inside were humans and other alien species, prisoners from worlds the Cruvor had conquered. Captain Johnson, Sam called softly. From one cell, A thin woman with short hair stepped forward. Her face was bruised, but her eyes lit up. "Lieutenant Martinez, how did you?" "No time to explain, Captain." Sam used a stolen key card to open her cell. "We've got a ship, but we need to hurry." As they freed other prisoners, an alarm began to sound. Red lights flashed in the corridor. "They know we're here," one fighter said, fear in his voice. "Then we fight our way out," Lisa replied, taking a weapon from Sam. "And Lieutenant, I have something we need to take with us. Command codes for their entire communication network." "How did you get those?" Sam asked in amazement. Lisa smiled and nodded toward a blue-scaled Krivor who had emerged from her cell. "I had help from someone who wants the war to end as much as we do." 2 weeks after the daring rescue mission, Dr. Amanda Foster stood in her lab surrounded by Earth's top scientists. On the table in front of them sat a small silver device about the size of a shoebox. It didn't look impressive, but it represented humanity's best hope. "This is it?" Colonel Joe Foster asked, looking at the device with doubt in his eyes. Amanda nodded. "We call it the empathy bomb. It contains 2 parts, a signal that can deactivate Krivor neural dampeners, and a carefully chosen collection of human emotional experiences." She touched the smooth surface of the device. "Music that makes us cry, stories that inspire us, art that moves us, memories of love, loss, courage, and hope, all compressed into a signal that will hit the Krivor like a tidal wave." "Will it kill them?" asked General Clark, who had initially been skeptical of the plan. "No," Amanda replied firmly. "It won't harm them physically, but it will overwhelm them emotionally. They've never experienced emotions the way we do. Their entire society is built around controlling and suppressing feelings." Joe picked up the device carefully. "And we can send this through their communication network. With Captain Johnson's command codes, yes. The signal will reach every Krivor ship and base in our solar system simultaneously." In another room of the underground base, Captain Lisa Johnson met with Kate Foster. Despite weeks of recovery, Lisa still looked thin, with new scars visible on her face and arms. But her eyes were clear and determined. "The Krivor are moving their planet crackers into position," Lisa said, pointing to a map. "We have 3 days at most before they're ready to use them." Kate nodded grimly. "Then we need to act now. The empathy bomb is ready." "What about delivery?" Lisa asked. "That's where you come in," Kate replied. "I'm leading a team to infiltrate their communication hub on Phobos. We'll upload the signal there, and it will spread through their entire network." Lisa studied the young woman's face. "It's a suicide mission." Kate's expression didn't change. "Maybe, but it's our only chance." Later that day, Colonel Foster addressed the team selected for the mission. Kate would lead them, with Captain Johnson providing guidance on Krivor systems. 6 others would go, including Lieutenant Martinez and computer specialists. "This may be the most important mission in human history," Joe said, his voice steady despite the fear he felt sending his daughter into such danger. "The fate of Earth depends on your success." He looked at each person in turn. "Some military leaders wanted us to build a more conventional weapon, something to destroy the Krivor ships and kill their crews. But that's not who we are." Joe picked up the empathy bomb. "This device won't take lives. It might even save them, not just ours, but the Krivor too. They've been enslaved by their own biology, forced to suppress their emotions to function. Perhaps after today, they'll understand what it truly means to be alive." Kate stepped forward and took the device from her father. Their eyes met, and volumes passed between them without words. "We'll take a stealth ship," Kate told the team. "The journey to Phobos will take 12 hours. Once there, we'll have to fight our way to the central communication node." Captain Johnson added, "The command codes will get us into their network, but they'll detect the intrusion quickly. We'll have minutes at most to upload the signal before they lock us out." As the team prepared to leave, Amanda embraced her daughter tightly. "The signal will take approximately 30 seconds to fully upload. she explained. You need to protect the device until that process is complete. Kate nodded. What happens after it's uploaded? Amanda stepped back, her eyes glistening with tears. Then we wait and see if humanity's greatest weapon works, our capacity to feel. The small human ship approached Phobos silently, its engines barely making a sound. The moon's cratered surface loomed large in the viewports. Somewhere on that barren rock was the Cruvor communication hub that controlled their entire network in the solar system. Kate Foster checked her weapon one last time. Next to her, Captain Johnson studied a map of the facility they would infiltrate. The main antenna is here, Lisa said, pointing to a large structure. The central node is 2 levels below it. That's where we need to go. Lieutenant Martinez looked out at the rocky surface. Their sensors will detect us soon. We need to move fast. The ship landed in a small crater about a mile from the hub. The team put on their spacesuits and checked each other's seals. Kate carried the empathy bomb in a special backpack. Remember, she said to the team, we need 30 seconds of uninterrupted connection to upload the signal. Whatever happens, protect the device until the upload is complete. They stepped out onto the dusty surface of Phobos. With the moon's low gravity, they moved in long, bouncing steps toward the Cruvor facility. Its metal towers and domes stood out against the blackness of space. No alarm yet, Martins whispered through the comm. They haven't spotted us. They reached the base of the facility and found a maintenance airlock. One of the computer specialists, Officer Patel, worked on the control panel. I'm in, she said after a minute. The codes Captain Johnson got are working. The airlock opened, and the team entered quickly. Once inside, they removed their helmets but kept their suits on. The air was breathable, but had a strange smell. The central node is this way, Lisa said, leading them down a corridor. They encountered 2 Cruvor guards at the first junction. Martinez used the sound weapon, and the aliens dropped to the floor, clutching their heads in pain. More will come, Lisa warned. They'll know we're here now. The team moved deeper into the facility, fighting their way through more guards. One of their members fell to alien weapons fire. Another was badly wounded but insisted they leave him behind with a weapon to cover their retreat. Finally, they'd reached the central communication node, a large room filled with alien technology. Screens covered the walls, showing different parts of the solar system. In the center was a platform with what looked like a control console. There, Lisa pointed. That's where we need to connect the device. Officer Patel rushed the console and began working. Kate removed the empathy bomb from her pack and handed it to her. How long? Kate asked. 2 minutes to break through their security, Patel replied. Then 30 seconds to upload. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed, and a voice spoke in the clicking language of the Cruvor. They know exactly what we're doing. Lisa translated, her face grim. They're sending all guards to this room. The team took defensive positions around the console. Martins and the others aimed their weapons at the doors. Almost there, Patel said, her fingers flying over the alien controls. The main door to the room burst open. A group of Cruvor soldiers rushed in, led by a larger figure with red-tinted scales and elaborate armor. Warlord Giscare, Lisa whispered in shock. The warlord's yellow eyes fixed on the humans. Stop them, he ordered in his clicking language, the translator on his chest converting his words to English. The team opened fire. 2 more humans fell. Martin stepped forward, placing himself between the warlord and the console. Now, Patel shouted, the upload has started. 30 seconds. Giscare himself moved toward Martinez, all 4 of his arms wielding weapons. Whatever you are doing, it will fail, the warlord said. Your species will be slaves or extinct. Those are the only options. Martinez fired his weapon, but the warlord's armor deflected the shots. In a swift motion, Giscare struck Martinez, sending him flying across the room. 20 seconds, Patel called. Kate and Lisa fired continuously, keeping the other Cruvor back. But G's care moved forward relentlessly. Martins pushed himself up, blood streaming from a wound on his head. He looked at Kate and Lisa, then at the approaching warlord. "Get ready to run," he said over the comm. Then he charged at Jakar, tackling the much larger alien. 10 seconds, Patel shouted. Martinez and G's care struggled on the floor, the human clearly overmatched but refusing to let go. 5 seconds. "It's done," Patel finally yelled. "The signal is uploading to the entire network." Lisa grabbed Kate's arm. "We need to go. Now." As they ran from the room, Kate looked back one last time. Martinez still held onto the warlord, his face determined even as G's car's weapon pressed against his chest. Throughout the solar system, something strange happened. On every Cruvor ship, in every base, and at every outpost, the aliens suddenly stopped what they were doing. Their bodies froze as the signal from the empathy bomb spread through their communication network. First came the deactivation of their neural dampeners. Small devices behind their ears sparked and shut down. Then came the flood of human emotions: music, poetry, stories of love and loss, courage and sacrifice, joy and sorrow. The full range of human experience washed over them like a tidal wave. Cruvor soldiers dropped their weapons. Ship captains stared blankly at control panels. Some aliens fell to their knees, overwhelmed by feelings they had never experienced before. On Earth, Colonel Joe Foster and Dr. Amanda Foster watched their monitors with held breath. Reports came in from around the solar system. Cruvor ships near Jupiter have stopped firing. Mars defense reports enemy forces are standing down. The blockade around Earth is breaking formation. Amanda gripped her husband's hand. It's working. In the command center of the Cruvor flagship, Warlord Gisker had returned from Phobos just moments before the signal hit. He felt his dampener fail, felt the strange tingling as it shut down. Then the emotions came. Gisker experienced human grief, a mother crying over her lost child. He felt human joy, friends celebrating a reunion. He felt human courage, soldiers standing together against impossible odds. Most of all, he felt human empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. The warlord fell to his knees, his 4 arms wrapped around himself. For the first time in his life, he understood what his conquests had cost. He felt the pain of those he had enslaved, the fear of those he had threatened, the determination of those who fought against him. And he wept. Kate Foster and Captain Johnson made it back to Earth 2 days later. They found a changed solar system. The Cruvor fleet had withdrawn to the edge of Neptune's orbit. No shots had been fired since the empathy bomb was deployed. "What happens now?" Kate asked her parents as they stood in the command center. "We've received a message," Joe replied. "The Cruvor want to talk, not just their warlord, but representatives from all their ship crews. They're different now." Lisa nodded. "Kurna told me this might happen. The dampeners didn't just control their fear. They controlled all their emotions, including empathy. Without them, the Cruvor are experiencing true connection with others for the first time." A week later, a small Cruvor ship landed outside the EDF headquarters. From it emerged Warlord Gisker, now wearing simple clothing instead of battle armor. With him was Corinna and several other Cruvor. Colonel Foster, Dr. Amanda, Kate, and Captain Johnson met them on the landing pad. "I come not as a warlord, but as one who seeks understanding," Gisker said, his voice different without the metallic edge of his old translator. "What you did to us, it has changed everything." "Are you here to surrender?" Joe asked. "I am here to apologize," the former warlord replied, "and to learn. For centuries, my species has conquered others, believing ourselves superior because we controlled our emotions. Now we see that was our greatest weakness." Kurna stepped forward. "Many Cruvor are suffering. The emotional awakening has been traumatic. We need help to adapt to our new state." Amanda nodded. "We'll help you." And perhaps you can help us too, with your technology and knowledge. Over the following months, a new alliance formed. Earth sent doctors, therapists, and artists to work with the Krivor. In return, the aliens shared their advanced technology. The planet crackers were dismantled. The other species conquered by the Krivor were freed. 1 year after the day of the empathy bomb, a memorial was built on Phobos. It honored Lieutenant Martinez and all who had given their lives in the war. At its center was a simple message in both human and Krivor languages. Our greatest weapon was not made of metal or energy, but of understanding and empathy. In sharing our humanity, we found peace. Captain Johnson stood before the memorial, remembering her crew from the Defiant and the long journey that had brought them here. Beside her, Kiruna looked out at the stars. "Your species is remarkable," the Krivor scientist said. "You turned our greatest fear into our greatest strength." Lisa smiled. "That's what humans do best. We adapt, we connect, and when facing our darkest hour, we find light in unexpected places." Together, human and alien watched as Earth rose over the horizon of Mars, no longer a battlefield but a symbol of hope.